When your fists and feet won't quite do the trick, you might need to grab something with a little more oomph. And that's where monks of the Way of the Kensei really shine. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. And today, we're touching on the Way of the Kensei, a monk subclass that is all about the big weapons. Let's get into it. Of course, talking about the Way of the Kensei, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below, so remember to talk to me down there. Way of the Kensei monks are different than other monks in that, while normal monks, most monks, will stick with monk weapons in their hands and feet, Way of the Kensei monks find their perfection and their path in use of martial weapons. They see these weapons as more than just a weapon, but more of a tool to create art. Art of death. Mastering weapons at such a high level requires a lot of dedicated practice from the monks, which they definitely take their time and learn and understand the weapons, and so it becomes an extension of their own self. And while traditionally this may have focused more on swords, the skills with the weapons has transferred into other weapons as well. So they're not just sword monks, these guys can deal with anything. At level 3, when you choose the Way of the Kensei, you gain the ability Path of the Kensei, which basically, there's a lot to this one, and it gives you some combat skills and some good life skills. Life skills, we're talking about proficiency with calligraphy supplies or painting supplies, your choice. Also at level 3, you get the ability called Kensei Weapons, and this is where your bread and butter is for this subclass. When you gain Kensei Weapons, you get to pick 2 weapons from the list. 1 melee, 1 ranged. The only stipulation on these weapons is they must not have the heavy attribute tag. There is one exception to this though, and that is the longbow. Your 2 weapons that you've picked are now your Kensei weapons, and you are now proficient in their use, unlike other monks that have to kind of stick with simple weapons for what they do. These weapons also count as monk weapons when dealing with the monk's ability and the damage die that can come out of it. At level 6, 11, and 17, you get to choose another Kensei weapon to add to your arsenal. So not only do you have these first starter 2, a ranged and a melee, but you have the ability to pick up to 5 total by the end of your life as a Kensei monk. Also at level 3 though, you get the ability called Agile Parry, which allows you to use your Kensei weapon to defend yourself when you make an unarmed attack. How this works is if you've made an attack action on your turn, and if part of that was using an unarmed strike, and if you are wielding your Kensei weapon in one of your hands, then you can gain a +2 armor class until the start of your next turn. It's basically you go on the defensive with your weapon. Also at level 3, you get the ability called Kensei Shot, which increases your ranged damage capacity. How this one works is if you decide to make a ranged weapon attack using your Kensei ranged weapon that you should have picked already, as a bonus action, you can add a 1d4 damage to any other ranged attack you make for the rest of the turn. Moving on, finally, that was a lot of stuff at level 3 that you get as a Kensei, but now we're getting to level 6, you get even more. Moving on from level 3, where you did get a lot of abilities, we reach level 6 where you get the feature called One with the Blade. Part of this is you get to pick a new Kensei weapon, either ranged or melee, it's up to you. But that's not the whole point of this ability. At this point, you also get magical Kensei weapons, which means any attacks from your Kensei weapons, the damage is counted as magical in terms of overcoming resistances and immunities. We've talked about it before, some creatures are immune or resistant to non-magical attacks. This makes your weapons magical. You also get the ability called Deft Strike, which when you hit a target with one of your Kensei weapons, you can spend 1 key point, and if you spend that key point, you get to add an extra damage die equal to your current monk damage die. At level 11, you get the ability called Sharpen the Blade. Yes, you do get another Kensei weapon at this level, either melee or ranged, again your choice. By now you should have 4 different Kensei weapons that you can choose from. The important thing here is you're now able to empower your weapons and give them bonuses using Ki. How this works is as a bonus action, you can spend either 1 to 3 key points to give a bonus to one of your Kensei weapons. The bonus applies to their attack and damage rolls and is equal to the number of key points you spent. This is a great way to get a quick +3 bonus to your attack and damage rolls, but the stipulation is this cannot be applied to an already magical weapon. At level 17, you get the feature called Unerring Accuracy, and yes, You get your 5th and final Kensei weapon choice here, either again melee or ranged. You should have 5 of them. But the important thing at this level is that you are now so skilled with your weapons that it's actually difficult for you to miss. Once per turn, if you miss an attack roll with a monk weapon, including your Kensei weapons, if you miss, you can re-roll that attack roll and take that number instead. This basically gives you advantage on an attack roll once per turn. That's kind of the situation here. If you miss, you can re-roll. If you don't miss, then you already hit them. Once per turn, you're attacking a couple times per turn. It's a pretty good ability. You can see the way of the Kensei is very different than other monk classes, where this one is all focused on the weaponry and mastering the different weapons. I think that's an interesting class design. I think this is a really cool way to look at the monk more as a samurai kind of character who has dedicated their life to mastering the weapons and making that the extension of their body, as opposed to a monk that just wants to make their body into a weapon. It's two very different styles. I think this one is pretty high on my list, which I'll have another list later on. But this one, to me, is really interesting. But I want to know what you think of the way of the Kensei monks. Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.